I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Well, let
Ready
me
for
click the
this?
recording
The
button.
smoke.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Episode 125, 6,
7.
7. Holy shit, 127.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
How about it then?
Francis Ford Coppola.
So we're going to discuss passion projects today because of a mega passion project.
Yeah. A city-sized one.
A city-sized, you could call it an, I was going to say empirical, but that's not right. Imperial. Megalopolis is what we're getting at, which is Francis Ford Coppola's. How many millions is this costing him?
I think it's 120 million.
Yeah, 120 million.
And look at the cast. It's got Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Talia Shire, Jason Schwartzman, Catherine Hunter, and Dustin Hoffman. So a huge, big, star-studded cast.
Yeah, it's sweet. I love it. Wait, yeah, Dustin Hoffman's in it. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Balthazar. There's so many Balthazar in it. I don't even know who that is. Balthazar. Getty.
I'm glad that they got him.
But they got him. We got
him.
Thanks to him.
Yeah, to him. Yeah.
Yeah. I know very little. I've watched 2 trailers about this movie. One was like a teaser.
Mm-hmm.
I already am obsessed with the kind of main premise that the Roman Empire never fell.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really cool. I like some of the imagery I saw in the trailer. Mm-hmm. It's like modern chariot racing and that just kind of Roman aesthetic, but put to a modern kind of template, which is very, very cool. I don't know if it's going to be a good movie though.
Yeah, so the reviews have just started coming out, and they're very mixed. They're either they're kind of all over the place. They're either like, this is terrible, it's confusing, it's self-indulgent, or it's a masterpiece. You know, Francis Ford Coppola is back, or it's somewhere in the middle of like, it's a big, crazy, wonderful, terrible movie.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
If you're spending $120 of your own dollars, you can be self-indulgent.
Yeah.
That you get to be self-indulgent if that's the case. And I expect it to be. So I don't know. Like, it's definitely something I'm going to see.
Yeah.
With just a handful of these factors, like Roman Empire never fell. All right, I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Adam Driver, I'm seeing it. Coppola Passion Project, I'm seeing it. Like, put all together.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to see it. But yeah, if that can, it polarized critics, right? They do the whole, what do you feel? I want to ask you, what do you feel about the whole like ovation barometer of Cannes?
I don't know, because it seems like people make a big deal about it at first, and then it just kind of, at least for me, I always forget about it once the movie has, gotten like its major release. So like, for example, if a movie comes out and it got like a 15-minute standing ovation at Cannes, and then 3 months later, and even if it's a movie's big hit, I don't go, oh yeah, Cannes got this one right. That ovation predicted this movie's success. I've never once done that, so I don't know if it's just it's just like a fun thing to report on in the moment, but then people forget about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be more blunt. I think it's stupid.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I think it's one of those things that seemed, I don't know when they started doing it. Maybe at the beginning of Cannes. I don't know. I haven't looked at the history of the Cannes standing ovation, but it's one of those things now that feels like it's almost kind of memed out. Like it's first of all, like, I don't know. I don't want to stand and clap for 15 minutes. Like, I love the movie. Like, I just saw Dune 2. The movie was incredible. One of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I left after. Like, I didn't stand there and clap for 15 minutes. Like, it just seems like one of those things that's played out now, and I don't like it. I don't like how that's a barometer for the quality of a movie. And then it's like this one. So I say all that to then report on the ovation at Cannes. It was 7 minutes apparently. but mixed with booze, and 7 minutes long. I feel like, is that kind of average, or
It seems a little average. It seems
yeah.
a little like, yeah, because usually it's like 12, 10 to 12 minutes is like, oh
So
my God, this is a masterpiece. This person's, this director's back finally
yeah,
with a masterpiece.
the film festivals, like the big ones, they do tend. I always thought they kind of skewed positive, which might be even a worse sign for Megalopolis. I don't know if you have an opinion on that. I think people get kind of caught up in the exclusivity of them, and
Yeah.
I'm talking about the big four: TIFF, Sundance, Cannes, and Venice.
Yeah.
I do feel like usually those are more positive, but that also, and then I was also reading that, early critics of or early reviews of like Apocalypse Now were negative, and movies like it's a Wonderful Life, with the Christmas one. Yeah, so those sorts of things, and you could do the list of movies that had poor early reviews and then were smashes, but I don't know. I feel like this might be a stinker, and I really hope it's not, because I think it's really cool. I love that someone wants to spend 120 million of their own money to make art. That's great.
Yeah,
because you could do a lot of other shit with that money, and I think that's one of the best things that a billionaire, maybe it's not a billionaire, but whatever he is, could do.
Yeah. I mean, fuck those starving African children. Like, let's make a big self-indulgent.
Oh, definitely.
No, it's funny. Like the when I first saw the trailers for it, it did remind me a little bit of like, I haven't even read these books, but like the Ayn Rand, like the Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, like one man's vision against this big industrial society. I don't know. This is whenever I just think Ayn Rand for some reason. I don't even know if that's really like her thing. But
I think they do compare it to that. Isn't that? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. I've not read either of those books. I know kind of the basics of Atlas Shrugged. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to it. It's not really on my list. It's really, really long.
Yeah.
I kind of get the premise of it, but yeah, I'm looking here. Anyway, I don't want to read too much into it, because I want it to be kind of fresh, but it doesn't have a release date yet.
Right.
So
I'm definitely gonna check it out. It's the only thing is, and maybe it's just a lot of modern movies do this, where footage that's shown in the trailers is often unfinished or still not representative of the film. When I saw the trailers, it didn't look, I mean, it definitely looked cool and imaginative, but it didn't really look like if I didn't know that it was Francis Ford Coppola, I would not have thought it was him. It looked kind of, it just had this sort of bland, kind of generic Hollywood look to it. But again, that could just be me being, hyper picky about these sort of things. And I'm sure, seeing the big screen will lend itself better to that. And again, these are just snapshots of possibly unfinished footage from the movie. I'm yeah, but like the topic of passion project, because he's been working on this, I think, since for like 20 years or something. He's been playing around with this for a long time, but he couldn't find a distributor. And I think
I'm not longer than that. Is it even? I thought it was like 40 years. Is it just 20 years?
Maybe. No, you're right. Coppola devoted the beginning of 1983 to developing the film, assembling 400 pages of notes and script fragments in 2 months. So yeah, I know it's closer to 40 years.
You know what's crazy is that if you take out Megalopolis, he's directed 3 movies this century.
Yeah.
In the 21st century, which I have not seen any of them. I have the new, what's like Betwixt Now and Midnight. Is that, because here's just Twixt. Is this a director's cut maybe that I have on there? I've had it on my watch list. Tetro, do you know what that is?
No.
With Vincent Gallo, and then Youth Without Youth. I don't even know what these are.
Yeah, he's made some very, very indie films.
Yeah.
It's funny because he's kind of like the king of passion projects.
Yeah.
Because he's had a lot of great Hollywood success about 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's had like a really, and then he had some minor success in the early 90s with Dracula.
He did. Rainmaker was good. I like the Rainmaker.
I haven't seen that one.
It's a legal drama. It's good.
Oh, okay, all right. And I'm not saying that he made bad movies, but he's just made some. He did that movie Jack with Robin Williams, like a lighthearted family comedy.
Yeah.
When you watch it again, when you watch it, like this the guy who did The Godfather and Apocalypse Now did this. Like it's like
Yeah.
it just seems like it's kind of like a weird bland, like throwaway. Let's do something for the kids sort of movie.
Yeah.
But so he real quick summary of Francis Ford Coppola. So he was kind of like like one of the big four of the new Hollywood movement in the late '60s to the early '80s. So of course he directed the first two Godfather movies, which got a lot of success, and he got Oscars for them. And then it did Apocalypse Now. And he also, but in between, he also did some smaller films. He did a great film with Gene Hackman. It's a really great one. What's it called? The Conversation.
Oh yeah, I just put that on my list actually. Wait.
Oh, it's terrific. It's a wonderful little thriller.
Yeah, but when? Oh yeah, 1974. Right, I just put that on my list.
And it's funny because like he was kind of at that time. Even though he had a lot of Hollywood success, also his first Oscar was for writing the script for Patton. Yeah. And it's funny. So he wrote the script, and then he kind of forgot. Like he sent it, the studio bought it, and then he kind of forgot about it and was moving on to other projects. And then sometime later, when the movie became a big hit, he was in the editing studio. He walked in, and they're editing the movie, and then he's just talking to the editor, and he goes, "Oh, hey, I wrote that movie." Like he forgot about that he wrote Patton, and then they are actually making it. He just didn't really know, and he ended up winning an Oscar for writing that movie.
Yeah,
it's kind of a cool badass thing. And then, but it's funny because like even though he had considerable Hollywood success, he was very independent minded. In fact, Han Solo is kind of based on him.
Is it really?
George Lucas was a friend of Francis Ford Coppola, and he just like that sort of renegade, independent, do-it-yourself spirit.
Yeah.
So in between doing like The Godfather, he's just like, all right, I'm gonna do this small independent thriller that I'm gonna write and direct myself, and I'm gonna do The Conversation, which still got some Oscar nominations for it as well. And they did Apocalypse Now, which is this big expensive thing, but then it same thing. It was a huge hit, critically acclaimed. And then he founded American Zoetrope Studios, which is like this incredibly, because he had made so much money, and so he wanted to do the studio where it's like it's just independent film, but then maybe get distribution from other bigger studios. And it was a huge, big, grand vision. It was actually really cool, and it's like, oh, we're going to do workshops to develop young talent, and we're going to do film festivals, and we're going to buy up all these lots, so we have full control over everything. And every year, we're going to do 15 modestly budgeted films that are interesting and unique, and we don't have to deal with studios and executives and stuff like that. The first film that he did with that was One from the Heart, which is this big budgeted flop.
Really?
In 1980. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like the flagship, like the first film from American Zoetrope Studios. It came out in 1980. It was supposed to cost, I think, about $8 million, and ended up costing $36 million or something.
Oof.
Oh wait, no. It was a $50 million musical that ended up costing $23 million.
And oh my God! Did they even make $1 million at the box office?
It was a huge flop.
Holy shit!
And it was expensive to make, and yeah, but it's I mean,
have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I heard it's a kind of, it's Francis Ford Coppola. It can be very stylish, and sometimes it works really well, where it's like, this is not a very good movie, but it's a big, bombastic, unique, original experience, like Dracula. Like it's a big operatic, crazy movie. I heard that the plot and so much about it is just kind of self-indulgent and kind of a mess, but I do want to see it.
Well, I have that book I'm actually going to read now after I finish what I'm currently reading, because of Megalopolis. It's about the American Zoetrope and like its founding and the creation and all that. It's by a writer named Sam Wesson, I believe. So I'm going to read that next, so maybe we can revisit this and I can give some real quick into it.
Can I just give like read this from the Hollywood Reporter? This is what he wanted his Zoetrope Studios to be, assuming that it would be successful, and it sounds really cool. Actually, he would open here it is. He bought the Hollywood lot formerly occupied by General Service Studios and established Zoetrope Studios, which he hoped would revolutionize how films were made. Coppola had grand dreams. He would build at least 6 parks around Zoetrope. He would develop a training program for underrepresented Zoetrope employees of the future. He would rent out space with no overhead charge to producers. He would offer 2 acting tracks, one for contracted actors and one in his repertory company, and the other for freelance talent. For Zoetrope workers and their families, he would enlist Hollywood professionals to lead free studio workshops in the art of filmmaking. He would open a Zoetrope Studios restaurant, several restaurants, so employees and their families would eat, and for free. He would open a library. He would screen, night and day, favorite films. He would sign directors emeritus to serve as artists in residence. While at Zoetrope Studios, they would develop their own dream projects and act as ubiquitous mentors to Zoetrope artists. He would open the lot to the greater community, like a museum or public park, and host film festivals, dance festivals, and drive-ins. It just goes on. It's like such a cool thing.
It's very cool. I didn't know all of this. Like I just from reading the, back cover, the cover page of the book, it sounds like it was like this idealistic, quixotic even vision of this, like a person who has been in the business who then wants to control everything, but it's like a benevolent control. Like, no, I'm not going to be like the studio heads. I'm not going to be like the executives. This is going to be about the art, about the craft, about, like even having the food that everyone eats, like controlling that, which is terrible business. Don't go into the restaurant business. It's very difficult. But I think that's this is all new to me, which is, I love the vision of it. But so how much of this actually happened?
Most of it did not. I think he did get like the studio lots, and I think he was hoping that One from the Heart would kind of would become a runaway success, and then he could start building this out even more. And this would be, by the way, he's going to do this in Hollywood too. Like he was like,
I thought this was San Francisco though.
He was based in San Francisco for a while, but then he was also going to open up another one in New York City.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Yeah. So again, just kind of like the benevolent dictator thing of like, I will be like this like master of cinema on both coasts sort of thing, which again sounds super cool.
It is cool,
but it seemed like I won't get into like all the story, but like making the movie was very expensive. We'll revisit
this after I read that book, and then we can kind of talk more about American Zoetrope. Here, this episode, we're going to talk more about just the concept of passion projects, which I think is also, we were just talking about like the Cannes barometer, the clap barometer. Like I think like that term, like the passion project term sometimes gets thrown around where I forget who it was. Was it Ben Affleck who recently had a passion project that was like comically bad? Like something that shouldn't be called a passion project.
Oh,
does that ring a bell?
It sounds like something that he would do.
It was something like, dude, you get like, because you can't overuse the passion project.
Yeah.
So you get one. Everyone gets one passion project. Okay. And let me see if I don't want to take a, but anyway, and we were talking about the he's in a lot of movies. We're talking about the concept of the passion project, and how this was obviously Coppola's is Megalopolis, which to me, this is like the quintessence of a passion project. He hasn't made a movie in 13 years.
Yeah.
13 years. It's big. It's a massive, I mean, I don't want to get too much on his background, but like he is Italian, like Italian American. So the idea of like Rome never falls, it's very cool. Like this is what you make a passion project for, this big concept with all of these A-list actors, but also not just throwing, the spaghetti at the wall, so to speak, seeing what sticks, like prestigious actors too. Giancarlo Esposito, who ironically is actually Italian and speaks Italian, even though a lot of people I think associate him with being black, because that's who he's played on Do the Right Thing. He played like almost a I don't know, a Black Power person, but like a black activist type guy. And in Breaking Bad, he's, I don't know if they really address him being black, but he like speaks Spanish, like no Spanish. I think he might be South American in that, but he actually, like John Coppola actually speaks Italian and is about Esposito's an Italian last name. But like Adam Driver, Dustin Hoffman, these big name actors. So that's very cool. This is what a passion project is about. My favorite, another great Italian-American director, Marty Scorsese, Silence, which I know I brought up a bunch on this podcast. And actually that list you sent me, it was number one
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know if this was in any sort of order or if it just happened. I don't think this was a ranking order, but yeah, Silence, which was his passion project that he had been working on for many years, or had been kind of constructing for many years after he read the book Silence by a Japanese Catholic writer named Shizuko Endo. It's only important because it's about Japanese Catholics.
Mhm.
And I love that movie. I think it's a beautiful movie. But it's not, The Irishman or The Departed or one of those sorts of movies. It's much more contemplative and kind of sad and depressing in a way, but I think very profound, and the sort of thing that he's earned that ability to make a movie like that you don't have to satisfy. You don't have to worry about people streaming on Netflix or going to the theater, really. I mean, you obviously want people to see it, but it's more about creating this thing that's been on your mind for, I think he was thinking about this movie.
It's set for 25 years. So
25 years.
Mid 80s, maybe.
Yeah. 1989 when he was, 1989 is when he read the book, and he'd been thinking about, he was filming Akira Kurosawa's Dreams. Why was he filming it? I don't really know that part, but anyway, I love that idea, and to me, that's like so like to have something that you were thinking about for 25 years. Like, I mean, I'm a writer. Like, I've mulled over some ideas for books for years and still do, and make notes, and I'll still make random, so that when I go to write that thing, even if it's in a decade, I have things to go off of. I have not maybe an outline, or I have kind of meat to put on the bone to start that project. So I think that's just a really beautiful thing that an artist gets to do that not everyone can do. But it's almost like a rite of passage, I think, is getting to make the passion project, which is why I think it was kind of funny when Ben Affleck wasted his on, I don't remember what it was in the last 5 years. I know that. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't The Last Duel.
It wasn't Jiggly or whatever, or Gigi, or
what's Gigi?
The one he did with J-Lo. It's like
Jennifer. I see Jennifer Lopez Halftime. I don't see anything named. It wasn't Air.
No.
It wasn't Clerk 3. I don't know what it was. Was it? I don't know. Anyway, so what are what are your top? Do any come to mind for you?
In terms of good passion. Well, I do want to talk about Science a little bit more. So even though this film was kind of a flop, so the budget says is between $40 and $50 million, and it made $23 million.
What movie is this?
Silence.
Oh, Silence. Yeah.
So even though it was technically kind of a flop, it was critically acclaimed, and it has been on a bunch of lists, top 10 lists. And I've definitely seen a lot of articles written about it where it's sort of like a sort of forgotten Scorsese film, because of course, we know him as like Goodfellas and Taxi Driver and all that stuff. These sort of like big bombastic violent crime movies, and then he does something that's more introspective and thoughtful, but also doing it in a way that works, apparently. Because it seems like sometimes when a director who's known for like a certain style and like, I'm going to do something completely different, this is something I've always wanted to do, it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
I will say this is another film that I have not seen, but it was Wes Craven. I think it's his only Oscar nominated film. He did a movie called Music from the Heart. It was kind of a passion project for him, because he's a big fan of classical music. And so yeah. And so after Scream was a big hit, and then he got a 3-picture deal. 2 of them had to be horror movies, and one of them could be whatever he wanted. And then so he picked like this PG-rated, like Meryl Streep starring movie, and then got an Oscar. It might have even won, but it was like I heard it was actually a pretty decent movie. I'll probably check it out, because
Wes Craven did The Last House on the Left?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I didn't know that. That's his first movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was swinging for the fences with that one, wasn't he?
Jesus. Yeah, he was. Holy shit. All right. I'm looking here. What was the movie? Music of the Heart in 99. Yeah, he was just coming off of Scream, right? Yeah. Scream 2. Well, also, real quick, back to Marty. So Silence is sandwiched between The Wolf of Wall Street and The Irishman. So I think that's why it gets forgotten. Wolf of Wall Street is 2013, Silence is 2016, Irishman is 2019. So it's like, those movies kind of overshadow it. And while, like, obviously a movie like The Passion of the Christ or a lot of Christian movies will get people to see them just because they're a Christian movie. But I think those are more like Jesus movies where silence isn't really like I mean, spoiler alert, Jesus is in it somewhat, but it doesn't have the same. It's like Catholic missionaries in Japan in like 16th century Japan.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah, it's not like it's like, hey, so it's gonna be a lot of torture,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be really sad, and it's long.
Yeah.
So do you want to see that? People are like, no. Like it's one thing when Jesus is being tortured and it's Mel Gibson, like that obviously was extremely popular. But it's like, no, well, these guys are just priests. It's not going to kind of have the same draw. And then there are people who aren't going to see it for that exact, we're like, oh, I'm just not going to see anything religious, right? Because I don't want that kind of messaging. Even though Marty's always been very, I think, tactful with his, because he's Roman Catholic, but he got tons of flack for The Last Temptation of Christ, even though he's, and he wasn't doing that from a negative way, but it's heretical to some people.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all. I just want to finish that with silence because I do love that movie. You should see and read the book. All of you, especially you, Joe.
Oh, I know. I need some more Japanese Catholicism in my life.
You do.
So I didn't know that this was a passion project. Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, the film sequel, or actually technically kind of a prequel to the original series.
It's a prequel. Yeah, I read this one too. I'm actually working my way through Twin Peaks.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how I feel about it. It's the second time I've started. I've definitely gone farther than the first time. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off about this because I watch tons of movies, right? That's my thing. So when I start shows, I usually like to watch shows that have already concluded so that I know how much I have to watch. Like I just finished Rome. The HBO series Rome had 2 seasons. Like I'm doing The Wire with my fiance. So I'm like, and people had been saying Shogun is a 1-season show because it's the book, which I've read. And I like, same thing with Silence. It's like same period. It's almost the exact same period. It's with Portuguese missionaries and same time. Was that Tokugawa shogunate? And I'm like, okay, I'm in. Like, I like that kind of stuff. I'm in for a season. And then it's like, oh, well, we're going to renew for 2 more seasons. It's like, God, I didn't, commit to that. I committed to a season so I could watch it. That's good. Move on.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I was like, oh, I'll finish Shogun. I'll do that pretty quickly. And then I'll get back to Twin Peaks. So I'm pretty annoyed with it now. I should have known better. Anything popular, they're just going to milk for everything it's worth. But anyway, so basically I say all that to say I will do Twin Peaks. I like the style. I know you're a huge Lynchian.
Yeah.
I like the style. It's weird. I love, I think I appreciate, is it Peter McLaughlin? What's his first name?
Kyle
McLaughlin. Yeah. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's a great character. So I'm going to stick with it, but I say that to get back to this, and this is a prequel, which I'm not committing to this prequel.
Well, the movie gets even weirder. I mean, it's a pretty R-rated movie, so it goes, because the original Twin Peaks was on ABC or something, so they could not get too graphic, but this one gets more violent and sexual, and so it's like this was David Lynch sort of like, yeah, exactly, movies. No, it was, but it's. But it's funny because like you're watching, I mostly love the original Twin Peaks series. I love the first season and a half. The David.
How many seasons are there? 2,
and then there's a Showtime revival. That I did.
Okay.
So I guess like 3 seasons basically.
Oh, like that was that like recent? The
yeah, it's like 2014 or something like that. 2015.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a few years ago. All right, so it was back then. Is Kyle MacLachlan in it?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. But same thing there, like that show that because it's on Showtime, it's able to be more explicit. So it's like it takes a lot, all of the same elements, but then it takes them to the crazier, weirder places. And you're like, this is not really Twin Peaks. It's definitely Lynch. But it's fun because like, the first time I watched Twin Peaks, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool, but it does feel like kind of a watered down ABC version of David Lynch. And when I watched the movie, and I was also glad because, I won't spoil anything for you for the show, but halfway through the second season, David Lynch left. And you can tell.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, you can tell. And so I guess there were some creative differences, and you could definitely see the creative differences. But he did return to the end. You're like, oh, okay, finally, we're getting back to the weird territory. And I think that was, the viewership started to decline when he left. And so I think when he did the movie, he was like, all right, like this is for the fans who want more of the mystery and the weirdness. Like this is me going all out. And the movie came out and it flopped and it got bad reviews, but it has since become one of those, oh, if you're a fan of Lynch, you'll love this. And it's become, retrospectively, it's become like a much bigger, it's got a lot more praise.
All right. All right. Well,
yeah,
I'm in it. I'm going to get back into it once I finish Shogun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to go next? Did you have one that you want to?
Oh, I don't have one lined up. I was looking at these. I mean, we could talk about the conversation is actually on this list. Oh, yeah, that's where I saw it, and that's why I put it on the list. Okay, and I put Enter the Void on. Also, have you seen Enter the Void?
No, I don't think so. But I know that Gaspar Noé guy. He seems like all of his movies are passion project. They're all just really weird out there.
Yeah.
Gonzo movies. There's one I want to talk about, which I think I mentioned in the text is Heaven's Gate by Michael Cimino. Okay. Came out in 1980, and so this movie is generally regarded as sort of like putting like the final nail in the coffin of the new Hollywood era, because Michael Cimino was he had gotten a lot of success and had even gotten an Oscar for directing The Deer Hunter, which was a huge hit and it was critically acclaimed.
Okay, of course.
And so this is sort of like in an era when younger directors were kind of pushing the boundaries, but we're also making movies that were not only successful at the box office, but we're also getting a lot of like award nominations and wins.
Yeah.
So the his next film, hot off the heels of The Deer Hunter, Michael Cimino wanted to do a period picture. It was called Heaven's Gate, and it came out. It took place in like the late 1800s, and took place in like Montana, and involves the plot doesn't really matter. It's about some guy, and then there's like a lady, and then a town.
Naturally,
exactly. Typical Western.
You could fill in the blanks there.
Well, here's the thing. It's a really long ass movie, though. It's like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour long movie, and that was like the release version. Like the original one that he wanted was like a 3.5 hour, 3 hour 45 minute
director's cut, baby. You got to see the vision, man. You got to secure it all. Release the 6 hour director's cut.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So the reason why this movie is regarded as sort of like ending the high of New Hollywood is because like the studios were largely making a lot of money from taking chances on these younger, more unproven directors, and so it's like, oh, like this guy, he did this terrific war picture. Yeah, let's have him do whatever he wants. So United Artists, and by the way, this movie tanked United Artists basically. I think they had to like file for bankruptcy after this because the movie was originally budgeted at $7.5 million, but the final budget came out to $36 million.
Oof.
So
better do some good Hollywood accounting on that one.
I know, yeah. So I'll just read a little bit about the movie. During pre-production, for example, Cimino, and so this is like a director like drunk on hubris, basically.
Right.
During pre-production, for example, Cimino insisted on casting French actress Isabelle Huppert as his female lead. When he was told that she can't speak English well enough for the part, he steamrolled over the objections. After that, the production went downhill and then off a cliff.
Let me guess, you want a banger. There's no ulterior motives there.
I know, exactly. So when the movie came out, it was a huge flop. So I'll read this real quick. By the end of the sixth day of shooting, Cimino was 5 days behind schedule.
Oh my God.
By the end of principal photography, he had 1.5 million feet of exposed film. When Heaven's Gate finally had its Manhattan premiere in November of 1980, critics were infamously unkind. New York Times reviewer Vincent Canby wrote, "It fails so completely that you might suspect Mr. Cimino sold his soul to the devil to obtain success for The Deer Hunter, and the devil had just come around to collect."
Right. Reflecting on that judgment.
And so, so Cimino's fiasco continues to be viewed by buffs, historians, and industry execs as the BO bust that ended the golden age of director-driven cinema in 1970s Hollywood. Even Chris Christopherson, who starred in the film, concedes that Heaven's Gate was used by powers that be to stop a way of filmmaking where the author was the director and was in control of the money. So by this time, the studios, this is why, in the 1980s, you saw studios like really reining in directors. And just be like, no, okay, we're like, you're not going to get a big budget unless you've made multiple hits with a small budget, and we're going to have a big say, and in terms of what gets made. So that's why, like, the '80s is often, at least '80s American cinema, is often regarded as sort of a bleak time.
Wait,
I mean,
what
you know,
was
like
that?
there were some fun
80s,
movies, but
what about the 80s cinema?
it's kind of a bleak time in
Oh, here
American
it
cinema.
is. Heaven's
Yeah,
Gate.
in the US, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking because I always knew Hollywood started in like the late 60s, but I didn't know when it was considered over.
Yeah.
So would it be like the 80s? Is that what it
Early '80s, yeah.
Early 80s? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking here. Successful films of the early New Hollywood era include Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, Rosemary's Baby. These are good movies.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead. I don't know The Wild Bunch. And then Easy Riders, what I always thought was like the start, but it wasn't. It's Bonnie and Clyde. Graduate, these came all before it. But Easy Riders, what I always think of when I think New Hollywood. And then there were failed ones like New York, New York. Sorcerer. That's a good movie.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You watched that recently.
Sorcerer was really good.
Mm.
Heaven's Gate, They All Laughed, and One from the Heart, which we just talked about. Sorcerer, that's like Sorcerer's a good example. That's a really good movie that wasn't successful. I mean, I guess I kind of get it if you're trying to get people in the door. Maybe it's not the most enticing, but it's a really good movie. Definitely see it. That's Friedkin.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I know about it is that there's like a truck on a bridge.
Yeah, that's like that's probably the most classic scene from it. And there's a reason for it. It is like a nail biting scene, especially when you understand that this was the 70s, 1977. Yeah, 1977. And it's all like practical, it's not CGI. And yeah, I mean, that's the shot on all of the movie posters and everything. And that's for a reason. It's like a studied scene, and it's really, really nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should definitely see that movie. But yeah, the other ones, I don't know.
Well, New York was Scorsese. That was a musical that he did. That was...
Oh, what I wanted to say was that I knew I had something to say. The set, like, it doesn't mean it can't be successful, but when I hear like passion project and period piece and like just those, like, it just feels like it's a recipe for disaster for a director who maybe made more contemporary plot stories to then go like, I know this shit, I'm gonna do a period piece. It doesn't mean they can't be good. I don't know if it would be considered a passion project, but Barry Lyndon is a phenomenal movie. Yeah, that's Kubrick. Like, he can do anything. He's probably the best director who's ever lived, in my opinion. That's an incredible movie. I think that would be considered a passion project. I'd like to check that. But that aside, there are, like, I just feel like that's typical, even in like satire. Like, I feel like when you see like satirical things, I can't name any off the top of my head, but it's like you have the young hotshot director who made a few hits, who's then like, I'm taking on like Napoleon Bonaparte. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing Cleopatra. I'm doing, the big thing, and it doesn't mean it can't work. It can, but I just feel like oftentimes this is a recipe for disaster.
No, you're absolutely right, because I mean, like, usually those movies, they're expensive because they're period pieces, so it's like you have to get costumes and sets that don't exist,
and research. You have to be accurate. People pick it apart, they'll just laugh at it.
Exactly. So there are all those elements. So right off the bat, it's gonna be an expensive film. Oftentimes, it's based on a story that people might not be too familiar with. Like, so it could just be something like, here's a story about missionaries in 1920s Sweden, and it's a romance, and they're caught between two warring nations, and there's a plague, and so now they must, one of them, it's just like, it's just, there's all these, it's a 4.5 hour long movie about something.
And they're always super long. The clock's at 287 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, it's based on this novel that nobody knows about, but I read it in high school, and I was enamored with it.
And no one speaks for the first 72 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I like, they definitely made fun of that a bit in Tropic Thunder, where they had the fake like those two gay priests.
My friend and I, we considered going as those priests for Halloween.
And do you remember like the fake award that it won? It was like the Crying Monkey Award or something like that.
Yeah, the Crying Monkey. Yes.
um, and yeah, it's often one of those things where it's never a high concept film. It's never like, yeah, okay, it's a historical thing, but it's based on, it's something you can describe in one sentence. It's like, oh, it's two lovers, but they're star-crossed and they come from different cultures, and there's also this war going on, and there's political upheaval, and it takes place in a country that no longer exists, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. And it's one of those movies where it's like, the movie's about man's inhumanity to man, as well as love in times of turmoil. And it's like, no, get to the plot.
Yeah. They just try. I mean, again, I'm all for it because when it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic. And I love, I don't know, we're movie lovers here. It's like a lot of our show is talking about movies, and we want directors who we love to create the kind of stories that will last, and passion, obviously. I mean, the word passion is, I think people forget, like people always throw around like their passion. It's like, it's my passion to work at Chipotle, or it's like my just like get a job. It's like, no, passion actually means like there's a sacrificial part to passion. It means like you're giving up something to create this art. And if that means you have to give up some of your humility or your modesty or whatever it is, to be humbled to make this art that hasn't passed the screeners or the what are they called, like the test audiences, to show that's going to turn a profit or whatever, and you're putting maybe even your reputation on the line. Like, I appreciate that. I really do, from an artistic perspective, even if sometimes they're stinkers, because the ones that last have that extra, they have that added element to them, which I very much appreciate. Oh, we didn't talk about this. Tarantino canceled his
the film critic. Yeah,
that kind of sucks.
Yeah, because it sounded cool. It sounded
very cool.
Yeah,
it sounded very him. It sounded like a passion project.
Rumor that Shane Gillis was going to be the lead.
Really?
Yeah,
the lead.
Yeah.
That sounds like a rumor. It wasn't going to be like Tarantino's final movie. He was going to put Shane Gillis as the lead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, it could have been interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, but I also kind of struggle a bit when a director comes out and says this is a passion project. Because like, what if the movie ends up like sucking, like, and then it's just like, yeah, you like stupid, you're passionate about stupid shit.
Yeah, it's like, why did you should have tried harder.
Exactly.
You should have made it better.
I mean, I'm being a little cynical, but I mean, like, if I can at least respect an interesting failure where it's like, okay, the movie's not very good, or it's not my style or whatever, but I can at least be like, but the movie's unique. This is a filmmaker exploring this very idiosyncratic aspect of their own interests that nobody else is interested in, and they're going all out. I can at the very least respect that. But if your passion project, if the guys who directed like the Avengers movies came and said, oh yeah, Avengers Endgame was a passion project, it's like, yeah, it was a fun movie, but 10 other directors could have done just as good of a job. This is not you exploring anything unique and interesting.
It needs to be like, it's the rule that I didn't come up with this rule. This is from part of my take, but every sports fan gets one TV to smash in their life. Yeah. So you got to make it like one playoff loss, a Super Bowl loss, a World Series. Like, you get one. Everybody gets one. Yeah. You get smash one TV without judgment. It's kind of like that with passion projects. You can use it, but you get one. You can't, every 3 years, you can't be saying you got a passion project.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like really save it till you're a gray-haired director and you've made a bunch of other things first, and you've kind of been sitting on this for like, I'd let it kind of incubate, let it percolate for like 20 years or something, and then go and make it. That's what I want to hear about from a passion project.
Yeah, exactly. Don't just be like, oh yeah, somebody gave me the latest Stephen King novel, and I was very passionate about it last year, so I decided to make a movie out of it. And it's like, yeah, this isn't something that's been haunting you for decades.
Right. Even if it's like
wrestling with and struggling to find financing for, and you just finally, got enough clout to get this movie made.
Right. Like, you've never read a Stephen King book. You've never read a Marvel comic like 3 years ago. You don't have a passion project to make the next, I don't know, Silver Surfer. Is that even Marvel? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay. Yeah. Next Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah. Well, but then, even then, like that could be something interesting. So there's that Marvel character. It was a Netflix show. It was Luke Cage. Tarantino wanted to make a movie on that for years, and I wish he had, because he wanted to do a '70s blaxploitation version of that character, which would have been pretty cool. And this is like in the mid to late '90s. So he was doing what was that Pam Grier one that he did? Jackie Brown. So it's like, yeah, he was in the right mindset. So like that could, I wouldn't necessarily say that was a passion project, but at least it's like, okay, this is somebody who grew up with blaxploitation projects, blaxploitation films. He could have, that's something that's kind of informed so much of his career, like the sort of grimy, low budget, violence. He could have, that could have been something interesting. But so maybe that's like, maybe we should establish that as a rule now about what makes a good passion project. Like,
is it official? Let's make it official TRM rule.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't call it a passion project if it's been haunting you for less than a decade or something.
Yeah, less than it needs to be at least a decade. You need to fund some of it yourself.
Yes, you need to have been rejected multiple times.
Yeah, rejected multiple times. I would say there needs to be proof of some sort of script for 10 years too. Like, even if it's notes, some sort of notes. Yeah. Some sort of evidence you could use in a court of law that this idea existed outside of your head. And it needs. I mean, I guess that's fine, and you get one, and everybody gets one. Every director, you get one passion project, so don't waste it.
Do you know the story of Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune? Do you know about that? He tried to make a Dune movie.
That was that before the Lynch.
Yeah. This is like mid '70s.
I think you talk about it more. It sounds familiar, but I don't know the details.
There's a documentary about it. I think it's on Amazon. I highly recommend it because it's a wild story. But I just remember that they wanted to get Orson Welles to play like the big fat guy. They wanted to get
Aaron Harkonnen.
Yeah, they wanted to bring in like a lot of famous icons. They were to get Pink Floyd to do the soundtrack. To do the soundtrack. Like, it was gonna be like a big, crazy, wild movie. They brought in like artists who done like who were very well known for like science fiction, like book covers and comic books and stuff. So it was just like they were just going all out. Like for the music, we're gonna get a psychedelic rock band, and we're gonna bring in Hollywood legends to play the characters.
I mean, that's like who? What? I want to make a movie too, Joe. You know what I want? I want a bunch of A-list celebrities. I want one of the most famous bands ever to do the score. I want unlimited budget, and I want complete creative freedom. Yeah, those are all the things. Who wouldn't want that?
No, but here's the thing. I mean, to be fair though, I mean, so like in the documentary, like I don't know if he stuck to our decade rule, but I hope that they publish this. But in the documentary, Jodorowsky brings out this huge like Bible, and it was just like script pages and like concept art, and so it was something where he just spent years and years just cobbling together this weird, crazy psychedelic vision. So it's like, okay, you put a lot of work into this. This is not just like you staying up, putting up your 70s? Dreamcast.
Was this the 70s?
Yeah, mid 70s.
Man, I don't know if Dune was out for a decade yet. Wasn't Dune 60?
Yeah, it was like early to mid 60s, I think.
I think it was 64-ish. I'm not exactly positive. And also, they definitely weren't completed. That was the first one, but that's fine.
Salvador. But here's the thing: a bunch of these people actually apparently agreed to do the thing. Like it wasn't just like he made a list of his favorites.
What's the term? They're connected. They're what's it that? So it's like, so and so is connected to this film or is
attached.
That's like, does that mean anything?
I don't know actually, but like, but listen, but just listen to this though. So Salvador Dali was going to be in it. Orson Welles, Gloria Swanson, David Carradine, Mick Jagger was going to be in it.
Was he gonna wait? Was he supposed to play Paul Atreides?
I think so.
Mick Jagger as Paul Atreides. Well, wait, doesn't Kyle MacLachlan play he played Paul Atreides in the David Lynch one, right?
Yeah. This would have been a wild psychedelic rock and roll movie.
I wish it was made just to have. I actually haven't seen the Lynch one. I've seen some scenes from it.
Yeah.
I think me and Ryan watched some of those together when we were.
Yeah, we did.
But I haven't watched it. I don't know, dude. Villeneuve. Oh, so perfect example. Villeneuve gets a passion project. I want to know what his is.
Yeah.
Because that like if anyone has earned a passion project, it's him. I would like to see, but I don't think Dune would be considered. a passion project. What would, if you could have one topic and you get like we don't have to do like a draft or anything because this is off the cuff, but like, what topic would you want some great director to make? You don't have to pick the director right now. You could, but like, what topic is there not a movie for? There's a movie that doesn't do it justice, or you just want to see another one that you would want made.
Oh,
and I'll think of answer, Joe. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
I don't know.
Well, you like, what about like, is there like a Bach movie? Like there's a Mozart movie, right?
Yeah.
Don't you like Bach a lot? Like when you love like an Amadeus version of Bach, like a stylish, well-made, like interesting movie about Bach. I mean, Amadeus had a whole different kind of, Mozart had a whole thing. He was like a child prodigy. I don't know if Bach was that interesting.
Right.
Was there a Beethoven movie? That's like,
yeah, there've been a few. I know, what's his name? Gary Oldman played him. His Immortal Beloved.
Was it good?
I haven't seen it. I've heard mixed things about it. And then there was another one in the early 2000s starring some guy. But real quick, because I this might have been, somebody did make a movie about it. I just don't know. Franz Liszt, because he was sort of like the rock star of like the late Romantic era. He's a pianist.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he was known to have nailed a bunch of chicks, and then he became like an abbey. Like he became like a religious person, like an ordained,
like a monk.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. That's cool. Like that's an interest, like a Lothario that turns monastic, but he's also like a super talent. Was he a composer, pianist?
Pianist and composer, and he's one of the great. Another one too would be.
So does he have a movie? Does he have like a big movie?
There was one that came out in 1960, but not recently. In the last couple of decades. Maybe Niccolo Paganini. Somebody made a horror movie about him. I think in the late 80s. It was more like a cheesy slasher flick. Niccolo Paganini, and we talked about this. I think it was on our Satan in media. In Satan with Music episode, because he was a virtuoso violinist in the late classical, early Romantic era. And there are multiple reports of people seeing him perform live and Satan above him manipulating him like a puppet.
That's cool.
Like kind of the Iron Maiden.
Wait, we talked about Paganini during our Sell Your Soul to the Devil
episode. That was the episode. Yeah.
We talked about Paganini. Okay. Yeah. That sounds really familiar.
Yeah. So somebody did some cheesy slasher flick about him in the late 80s, I think, and it looked really dumb. Like somebody accidentally awakens him and he kills a bunch of teenagers.
So you'd want like a drama, like a legit Paganini movie?
Kind of. Well, I would kind of want to do like, did you ever see that movie? It was the vampire one about Nosferatu.
Okay, yeah, Nosferatu,
about the making of Nosferatu.
Oh no.
It had Willem Dafoe playing Max Schreck, the actor who played Nosferatu. So I kind of want to do something. It wasn't Interview with the Vampire. It was something. It's got vampire in the title, but it came in the early 2000s. And Willem Dafoe got an Oscar nomination for it. So the movie's based on the urban legend that Max Schreck, who played Nosferatu, was a vampire in real life, and that's not true at all because he's got an IMDb of like 40 movies or something. So I don't know how that, but like his performance was so good that people thought that he was a real vampire.
Right.
So the movie plays with the idea that the director sought a real vampire to play Nosferatu. So the movie's about the making of Nosferatu, as if the main actor is in fact a vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah. And so it's a really good movie, and so it blends like legends, like urban legends with like reality.
John Malkovich is in it.
John Malkovich played the director of the movie. So like they could only shoot at night. He kills some members of the crew in exchange for starring in the movie. So it's kind of like this darkly comedic historical horror film. It's weird, but like all these different elements work. If I were to do a Paganini movie, that's probably how I would do it. It's like, it would be based on real life events, but I'm probably flirt with the idea that maybe he did sell a soul to Satan. I think that might be kind of interesting. I mean, Amadeus did the same thing, like that.
Sure.
He was not killed by that other composer, Salieri. But it was like, well, what if he did? Like, let's kind of run with it and dramatize it. So,
What about you? Yeah. So I was thinking about this. So my answer is, I actually don't know why this doesn't exist yet. but a big, like, well-made, epic movie about some point in the Byzantine Empire. Because the Byzantine Empire is so interesting. Everyone focuses on like the classical Roman Empire, and the period of like Caesar, like the empire, like Caesar, Augustus, Marcus Aurelius, like those. There's Caligula, Nero, all those guys. But the Eastern Roman, like, there's no movie about what's his name, Constantine, and even I wanted like a movie about, let's say, to narrow it down, because
Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
Keanu Reeves that.
Yeah. A movie. So because the Eastern Roman Empire lasted an extra like 1,000 years almost after the fall of the West, I would want like a movie of Justinian II, who created the Hagia Sophia. There was like sport. There were religious factions and political factions and uprisings, and they were fighting the Bulgars and they were fighting the Parthians, or whoever. They're fighting like on the east, on the west. They were Greek-speaking Christians. They were, retaking old lands in Italy and North Africa and Spain. And it was just real, like, there are characters. I mean, I want to write this book. Like, this is one of the things I'm thinking of doing in the future that I'm taking notes of. Like, there was Belisarius, who was this like swashbuckling general of his. There was Justinian, who was this kind of like tortured literal, like he was a peasant in the Balkans, and he rose to emperor. His wife, I'm blanking on her name right now, but she was, people speculate what she actually was. Some people say she was a dancer. Some people say she was a prostitute, but she became queen. And there's this epic scene where Justinian is fleeing the city because the blues and the greens, which are these political factions, go to war with each other at a hippodrome race, which would be like, Republicans and Democrats going to war at a football game or something, right? And I think they might team up actually to like go after the elites.
Yeah.
And he's going to flee, and she's like, it's better to, basically she says something to the effect of like, it's better to die an emperor than flee, as a coward, or something like that. And he stays and he quashes the rebellion. And it's like this amazing, that in my head, I'm like, how does this not exist as a movie? Yeah. It is so perfectly written for a movie. It is this like, it's this incredible, at the time, Constantinople was most likely the largest city on the planet. Maybe some people say Peking, Beijing was bigger. Los Angeles was a bunch of like hills, like or a bunch of whatever it was. There's a bunch of like,
cartels.
Yeah, it was probably just cartels. But I mean, it's just this incredible story of these characters. There are like a lot of books written about it, but never even, I mean, in Game of Thrones, Maze Landing is a town here where I live. King's Landing is like based off of Constantinople. Like, it's the biggest city. It's where the royalty lives. It's the most like magnificent of cities, but also has the poverty. So it just shocked, because I think everyone always focuses on the West, like the Western parts of Europe that fell and were, conquered by the barbarians and the Germanic tribes and all of that, which I think also has cool stories. At the same time, I would love to see a story of the Visigoths, who no one ever talks about, in like modern Spain. And there's a lot of kind of infighting there that then weaken them and let the Moors take over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I cannot believe there's not a epic story about an epic movie. I'm talking like this. They could, if they don't make a series about, like a 3-hour movie of Justinian II. This is like mid 6th century, which would be really, really cool.
No. Yeah. I think we have enough movies about people fighting in the past, though. I think this
is really cool. They use like Greek fire, which is what the Game of Thrones people out there, that's what the dragon fire or whatever that is, the green fire in that show, that's based off of the Greek fire, which the Byzantines made. They fought the Arabs, they fought the Persians, the Bulgars. It was just really like they had the whole, I'm going to go on a tangent, I know, but you know what? Lord of the Rings, right? You've watched Lord of the Rings. The beacons, the beacons are lit, that whole thing when they light the beacon. That's the Byzantines made that to send signals to each other. It's like, hey, there are a bunch of Persians over there. Get ready. Boom, beacon lit. And then that would light the beacons. That's from the Byzantines.
So they stole that from the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, they stole that Tolkien. Yes, they stole that from Tolkien. But it's really cool. They were super advanced. Another character that you could make, and then I'll stop, I swear. Justinian, how cool is this, man? Justinian had something called the Varangian Guard. These were fucking Vikings who were his own personal bodyguard. Like, imagine these like little Greek people, and then you have these giant Vikings guarding the royalty.
Yeah.
And these were Hardrada, like Harold Hardrada, who was this Viking king at one point. He was in the Varangian Guard. In the Hagia Sophia, there are runes and script like etched into the walls of the Hagia Sophia today in Istanbul.
Right.
And the Vikings, and there were this like super cool, like extremely loyal, would guard the emperor. Like right there, you have another character. You could get what's his name, Eric Skarsgård, right there is the head of the Varangian Guard. People would see that movie.
Right. Well, you write that?
Damn it. Yeah, I should write
You're
this
fired up.
movie. I'm so fired up because it's such a good. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
That this movie could easily get made, and it would be so interesting.
Sounds like more of a series.
It does sound like it. It does. It sounds like a HBO series could make an amazing. Because Rome, the show, HBO show Rome was good. That it didn't end because people didn't like it. I think it was too expensive.
Yeah.
This was 2005, 2006. HBO now, especially with the popularity of Game of Thrones, market it this way.
Yeah.
Tons of Game of Thrones is based off of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones takes inspiration from all over the place. A lot of it is the War of the Roses, kind of the basic Starks versus Lannisters, is the Yorks versus Lancasters. But it's like, you know, the Dothraki are the Mongols, and et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of the royalty and King's Landing, all that is based off of the Byzantines, Constantinople, and it's a really it would you have the whole religious aspect to it, the Nicene Creed, you have the Great Schism, like all of these things that still, you know, perpetuate to this day, and the largest religion in the world.
Yeah, and then the tagline for Byzantine could be, you know, inspired by Lord of the Rings. So, you know,
God damn it. I'm just saying, any executives out there who have any pull on this stuff, that's how you do it. You said the story that right here, I got your tagline, the story that inspired Game of Thrones.
And ripped off Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
And ripped off Lord of the Rings, sure.
There's one more passion project I want to talk about real quick. This one never got made. But it had a lot of talent, and it's based on something that I'm passionate about. And the director too. Guillermo del Toro was going to make At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. And James Cameron was going to produce it, and Universal was going to distribute it.
What happened?
And I think Tom Cruise is going to star in it.
Oh my God! What the
I know.
fuck?
Yeah, it's like it's got these famous people attached to it, and
yeah, dude, that's the word.
You
know, I'm attached to this movie too. I decided
exactly. So Del Toro is a huge Lovecraft fan. So it just seemed like So he's the only sort of like mainstream Hollywood director who I think could do a good Lovecraft movie. So what happened was, one, the studio got cold feet when the budget was $150 million. The proposed budget was $150 million for an R-rated movie, because like if this movie flops, then because like when it's R-rated, it's like, okay, you know, it's not going to be like a family-friendly movie right off the bat.
Okay.
So they got cold feet about that. I think they wanted to make it PG-13. If it's going to cost this much, then at least make it something that younger people can see. And I think Del Toro didn't agree to that. And then another thing that supposedly kind of killed the momentum for the movie was Prometheus, because Ridley Scott. It's a very similar plot.
Oh, is it? Okay. I actually never saw Prometheus. I know it flopped though.
Yeah, and so the mediocre, the lukewarm reception to that movie was sort of it like that movie came like a year before At the Mountains of Madness was supposed to come out. So it was sort of like when that movie did not do well with box office and critics, people, I guess Universal was like, yeah, this is way too risky. Like another sci-fi horror movie with a big budget, with a big director. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And then Del Toro has often hinted like, yeah, you know, I'm still kind of talking, but you know, he started, he's like the Orson Welles of our time. Like he started so many projects that have just not, that he's not followed through with. But he's every so often, like every couple of years, he'll be like, yeah, you know, I'm still, you know, I've returned to it. I've been talking to some producers. We're still kind of working on it, but we'll see. And this and that.
What's his most recent thing?
I know he did a Pinocchio stop animation thing.
Oh yeah. He also did didn't he do the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
I think he was a producer on that.
He's a producer?
Probably, yeah. He's produced a lot of stuff. but yeah, he I hope he returns to it. I'll even take Tom Cruise.
Pinocchio. Oh, he did Nightmare Alley. I actually love that movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
A lot more. I like that a lot more than other people. Shape of Water, which I didn't love. I know it won a bunch.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Pinocchio. Frankenstein. He's got coming up next.
Oh,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, some guy in the
All right, Frankenstein. I guess another. Look, if anyone's gonna do a Frankenstein movie that I'd be interested in, it would be him.
Yeah.
At least we'll get a cool monster out of it.
Did you know we almost had a shared cinematic like monsters universe like in the mid 90s?
Awesome. Yeah.
Real quick, just because it has to do with Francis Ford Coppola because he did Dracula,
right.
And then he produced Frankenstein, the one with Robert De Niro.
I don't remember that one.
So the plan was to it wasn't because I use the term cinematic universe loosely. It was supposed to, like, let's take classic literary horror film, but then give them a big budget treatment with prestige directors, and then but after Frankenstein flopped.
I like big budgets, and I cannot lie.
All right, man.
I'm being salty. I just the whole cinematic universe makes my kind of eyes glaze over now.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of over it. I need a break from it.
I don't think I like when projects get milked to death.
On that note,
yeah. All right, brother.
All right, my friend.
Stay reckless and stay passionate too.
Stay recklessly passionate.
Yeah.
Passionately reckless.
Yeah.